In Bodenstown churchyard there is a green grave.
We are in the village of Sallins, County Kildare, and it's from here that generations of Irish Republicans have gathered before parading to the grave of Theobald Wolfe Tone nearby in Bodenstown. This place has seen the beginning of a political pilgrimage year after year through many generations of Republicans in good times and bad for the Republican struggle. Along this road to Bodenstown, Republican leaders of every phase of struggle have walked, from Thomas Davis to Maud Gonne, James Connolly, P.H. Pearse, Tom Clark, Countess Markievicz, Liam Mellows, and up to our own time, people like Joe Cahill, Maura Drum, but more importantly perhaps the Republican people, the rank and file from all over Ireland, from every corner of this country, the hidden Ireland, who gathered once a year, perhaps the only opportunity of the year that they had to meet, and they did so here by Wolfe Tone's grave. Following his death in British custody in the Provost Prison, Arbour Hill, Dublin, on the 19th of November 1798, Theobald Wolfe Tone, Irish revolutionary leader, was buried here in the family grave in Bodenstown churchyard. Co-founder of the United Irish Society, he laid the foundations of Irish republicanism, secured 3 military expeditions from the French Republic to Ireland for the liberation of this country, and he was captured on the last of those expeditions. His grave here in Bodenstown became a place of political pilgrimage for generations of Irish Republicans. For most of the past 200 years, they have gathered here on the nearest Sunday to the 20th of June, Wolfe Tone's birthday. Young Irelander Thomas Davis was the prime mover at the request of Wolfe Tone's widow Matilda in having the original monument erected over the grave in Bodenstown, and that was in 1844. Davis wrote the ballad Tone's Grave, which concludes, "In Bodenstown churchyard there is a green grave, and wildly along it let winter winds rave. For better they suit him, the ruin and gloom, till Ireland a nation can build him a tomb." Large crowds gathered at Tone's grave in 1898 for the centenary of the 1798 Rising. James Connolly organised the 98 Rank and File Committee and spoke at the grave. By 1905, the year Sinn Féin was founded, the tide had ebbed again. The Royal Irish Constabulary reported only 80 people at Bodenstown that year, showing, as their report says with wishful thinking, the failure of treasonable or revolutionary demonstrations in Ireland at the present day. In 1913, the Irish Republican Brotherhood chose P.H. Pearse to deliver the Bodenstown oration. It marked Pearse's emergence as a Republican leader. The commemoration was attended by 5,000 people and was chaired by veteran Fenian Tom Clark, who had spent many years in English prisons. Less than 3 years later, Pearse and Clark would be executed on the same day in Kilmainham jail for their part in leading the Easter Rising. Pearse said at Tone's grave, "Thinker and doer, dreamer of the immortal dream and doer of the immortal deed, we owe to this dead man more than we can ever repay him by making pilgrimage to his grave or rearing to him the stateliest monument in the streets of his city. To his teaching we owe it that there is such a thing as Irish nationalism." This 1913 commemoration was actually filmed by a cinematographer, a very early Irish moving picture, and Tom Clark arranged for the film to be shown to great acclaim in the Rotunda and Rathmines in Dublin. 200 Irish Citizen Army members, led by Jim Larkin and James Connolly, formed a joint guard of honour, and around Tone's grave with the Irish Volunteers, they stood in June 1914. In 1921, to beat the British ban on public gatherings and to keep the Bodenstown tradition alive, a group of Republican women of Commemoration travelled by car from Dublin here to Bodenstown to lay a wreath on Tone's grave. On the 20th of June 1922, the anti-treaty IRA executive occupying the forecourts came here and paraded at Wolfe Tone's grave, and the oration was delivered by Liam Mellows, a member of the IRA executive. There was what Todd Andrews described as an atmosphere of approaching doom at the graveside. Mellows made clear the IRA's commitment to the Republic when he said, "It cannot be made too clear that our enemy is England. Let it not be thought that we are out to fight any other enemy, for we are not. If it comes to a fight with England, then we will show whatever might happen, we will defend the Irish Republic." This was Liam Mellows' last public speech. 6 days later, using British guns, the Free State government opened fire on the forecourts and thus commenced the Civil War. In 1931, the Free State government of W.T. Cosgrave, using new coercive legislation, banned the Bodenstown Commemoration, but again the ban was successfully defied by 10,000 Republicans who paraded to Tone's grave. In 1934, a contingent from the Shankill Road in Belfast assembled to march, and there followed a sad and avoidable incident which has gone down in history. A section of the IRA leadership had split away to form Republican Congress, and their banners were not permitted by the organisers of the parade that year. Because the Shankill Road contingent was affiliated to Republican Congress, they were ordered off the parade, and an attempt was made to seize their banner. In recent years, Belfast Republicans, in tribute to those Shankill Republicans of 1934, carried a replica of their banner here in Bodenstown because they were denied their right to march. In 1936, Finucane, who had actually marched with the IRA at Bodenstown in previous years, were now in government, and they in turn banned the commemoration like their predecessor Cosgrave. Once more, Commemoration travelled to break the cordon and to hold a ceremony. The 1940s saw Republicans interned and imprisoned, with deaths on hunger strike and by execution in prisons in Ireland and England. But a revival was signalled again in 1948 when the oration at Bodenstown was delivered by Tomás Óg McCurtain, son of Sinn Féin Ard Mhéara of Cork, murdered by the RIC in 1920, Tomás McCurtain. Tomás Óg had been sentenced to death by a Free State military court and reprieved at the last minute. In 1963, the bicentenary of Tone's birth was celebrated, and it was marked by the establishment of the Wolfe Tone Societies, and these were one of the elements out of which emerged the civil rights movement in the 6 counties. In a publication called Wolfe Tone Today, Protestant Republican and journalist Jack Bennett wrote, "The solution to all of Ireland's exceptional political and economic problems, the solution to mass unemployment and emigration, the solution to sectarianism in the north, all this requires the raising again of Tone's grand concept, a brotherhood of Irishmen to claim our country." Following the split in the Republican movement of December 1969 and January 1970, the first Bodenstown commemoration of the reorganised movement under the Provisional Army Council of the IRA was held on the 14th of June 1970. The main speaker was Daithí O'Connell, who addressed the British government. "You stand indicted before the world for the wrongs you have done to Ireland. You never had any right to be in our country, and you never will. You sent your troops to keep what you call peace. You forget that peace must be based on justice. It cannot be founded on British bayonets. In a nutshell, get to hell out of our country. You never brought us anything but strife and war. At the height of the tragic 1981 hunger strike, Bodenstown saw dramatic scenes. 11 days earlier, 8 IRA prisoners had made an armed escape from Crumlin Mode courthouse, and one of them, Paul McGee, appeared on the platform at Bodenstown. Like many other Republican prisoners in the following years, he had to battle attempts to extradite him back across the border to face British courts. In 1983, Gerry Adams, newly elected Sinn Féin MP for West Belfast and soon to be president of Sinn Féin, delivered the Bodenstown oration. And he said, "Wolfe Tone, if he were alive today, would be vilified, as he was in his own time, as an upstart, a subversive, and a 1798 equivalent of a gunman. He would, even if he were alive today, be banned from RTE. But he would also, and this is his message to us, be formulating policies, strategies and revolutionary tactics to combat the national, social and economic evils which beset our people." And since then, as in all decades since Tone's death, each year Bodenstown has seen milestones on the long journey to the Republic, Tone's Republic. The journey goes on, the destination ever nearer.
A Carja, to Falter Rove Golar Cuig, Finucane Wolfe Tone 2021. As you know, each year, under normal circumstances, Irish Republicans from across this island assemble in Bodenstown Churchyard, County Kildare, to honour the founding father of Irish republicanism. Thanks to our public health workers, north and south, much progress has been made in fighting the COVID pandemic, although our society has not yet returned to normality. So, like last year, and in the interests of public health and safety, Sinn Féin is again hosting our Bodenstown Commemoration online. We remember today friends and comrades who we have lost over the past year. And on behalf of Sinn Féin, I extend sympathy and condolences to their friends and families. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the hunger strikes in the H blocks of Long Kesh. As we honour Bodenstown today, we also recall the heroism and sacrifice of the hunger strikers of 1981, and we pay tribute to all those who have struggled in the cause of Irish freedom and unity. Today is the 250th birthday of Theobald Bodenstown, the person who, more than any other, was responsible for establishing republicanism in Ireland. An intelligent and courageous young man, Tone was a founder of the Society of United Irishmen. Inspired by new democratic ideas at the time and by the American and French revolutions, the United Irishmen aimed initially at political reform and an end to the religious discrimination and inequality under British rule. However, faced with repression by the British authorities and forced underground, the Society re-emerged as a secret revolutionary organisation dedicated to the pursuit of an independent Irish Republic. Tone was also an internationalist who saw Irish independence as part of a worldwide struggle against tyranny and against injustice. Despite the passage of 2 centuries and the vast changes that have occurred in the intervening period, the United Irishmen's motto of equality remains a key motivator in today's endeavours to achieve a new, united and agreed Ireland. Today, genuine equality must mean respect for the identity, aspirations and needs of each section of our community. In 2021, legislating for the Irish language and the rights of Irish speakers in the North is about undoing decades of exclusion and discrimination. During the week, the British government agreed to legislate for Act na Gaeilge in the North. This will happen in October, with commissioners appointed by March 2022. Sinn Féin made clear to the British government that this was the only viable option to deliver these rights, as the DUP was unwilling and incapable of delivering on their commitments. It is regrettable that the DUP chose to block rights in this way for so long. But Sinn Féin have successfully broken through this obstruction. Irish speakers have been waiting for 15 years for basic rights and recognition to be delivered. This is important for Irish language speakers and for wider society because power sharing is based on inclusion, respect and equality. There's an important responsibility now on the Irish and British government to ensure that there is no further delay. It was on this basis of the agreement that our party leader, Mary Lou MacDonald, confirmed that Sinn Féin would nominate, and indeed did nominate, Michelle O'Neill as Deputy First Minister and will participate fully in the 5-party Northern Executive. Sinn Féin wants to work constructively with unionists to build agreement and to make common cause on the issues that affect all of our people. We have a huge amount of work ahead of us as we emerge from the worst of the COVID pandemic and as people return to work and we tackle issues such as hospital waiting lists. Genuine equality also means tackling the deep social and economic divisions which now challenge the cohesion of Irish society. A generation of Irish people are currently locked out of home ownership and denied the opportunities available to their parents. This generation deserves equality of opportunity. Inequalities in employment conditions, in income, and within our health, housing and education services are a direct result of the political policies pursued by successive Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil governments. Sinn Féin has an alternative political vision. It is that of an egalitarian republic with social justice and equality at its core. A country where the economy is at the service of our people, not the other way round. Those competing visions for Irish society will be presented to voters in the upcoming by-election in the Dublin Bay South. There is an opportunity to send a message that people want a fundamental change in this government's disastrous housing policies by voting Lynn Boylan number 1 on the 8th of July. Today, as we contemplate the legacy of Tone, it is timely to take stock of the progress being made in achieving his ideal of a united, independent Ireland. Developments at home and abroad are now leading inevitably to a referendum on the reunification of Ireland. Comments during the week by Taoiseach Leo Varadkar on a united Ireland merely reflect the popular mood and the building momentum for constitutional change. As the conversation on Irish unity grows apace, we need to ensure that all voices in Irish society are heard and included. An agreed, united Ireland requires a discussion of the shape and nature of new constitutional arrangements. Recognising this, the Irish Government must now convene a Citizens' Assembly to create a democratic foundation to prepare for a unity referendum. Like Tone, Sinn Féin seeks a united Ireland that is inclusive of all our people, whatever their background, tradition, creed, colour, sexual orientation, disability or political affiliation. For us, a united Ireland is not about grafting the North onto the South. It is about creating new political structures built on diversity, an equal society, not just between orange and green, but between urban and rural, old and young, men and women, LGBT and straight, old and new Irish, black and white. It presents us with an opportunity to tackle those aspects of our politics and society that are crying out for change. Like Tone, we seek to end the divisions and mistrust which have divided our people in the past. Political unionism is currently in flux, and unionist leaders are grappling with changed political realities. There is simply no future for political unionism retreating into a sectarian cul-de-sac in the face of irreversible social and political change. It is time once again to rediscover the spirit of positive engagement between our different traditions that was a feature of Tone's time. In 1798, many enlightened Ulster Presbyterians joined in common cause with their Catholic neighbours, recognising that their future lay in building an independent, democratic, pluralist state in Ireland with equality for all. Ireland is in transition. A lot of previous certainties are gone. The tide of history is with those who seek to build a progressive and inclusive future. In this decade of centenaries, an inclusive discussion on constitutional change allows us to create a new and improved country, learning from the lessons of the past 100 years. That British identity of a significant number of people in the North can and must be accommodated in an agreed, united Ireland. Such accommodations may challenge many from the Irish nationalist or Republican traditions. But the prize of an agreed, peaceful and prosperous future for everyone on our island requires open minds and a generosity of spirit. The future of our people, unionist and nationalist, north and south, are bound together. Working together, let's design an Ireland that is accommodating to all of our diverse traditions and identities. We have entered a defining period in our history. National reconciliation, harmony between Catholic, Protestant and dissenter, the unity and freedom of our country. These were the aims of Wolfe Tone. They are our aims. We continue to take our inspiration from Tone, and we will continue on Tone's path to unity and freedom. Ar ai glyn le céile go dtí an phoblacht. Gur raibh maith agah.
Sin a ligra fuala tafwi allegerin, bui and our their foster, nia for fin tira nothing trial. Anocht a hymns of warn of will, lig on our gale, home bush no sail, lig on a screw, fue la wana belair, shall live canoe,
In Bodenstown churchyard there is a green